Hello everyone. I thought I will also do some random read with me, learn with me in this channel, along with sharing the versions of my Bhagavad Gita. Today I will be reading from Swami Ranganathananda's commentary, volume 2. I'm up to chapter 8 now in my deep dive. What I call deep dive is one way you can study the Gita is to just read the whole Gita chapters, all the chapters until the last verse, just the meanings. That will be a read through, just the meanings of chapter 1, sloka 1 to the 700th sloka, just the meanings. That would be a read through. And the deep dive would mean taking a chapter, taking the verses, reading the Sanskrit verse, reading the meaning, reading the entire commentary, and taking some key takeaways from each verse and trying to apply it to life. While I did start this practice in 2018, I think 2019 is when I started it much more vigorously. 18 was just like flirting with the book and just, it's not that much of, deep dive. 19 is when my practice started to get solidified. From 19 on, I have come up to chapter 8 now, and I'm going to be reading out chapter 8, 14 and 15th verses, and I'm going to be sharing some of the key takeaways that I saw in these verses personally. And this is not anything that's coming from the rishis. What I read is coming from the commentary of Swami Ranganathananda from Ramakrishna Math. This is the second volume again. For some of you that want to get it, it's wonderful, wonderful version with so much of practical life examples, and it shines through his commentary of pre-independence period and Gandhian thought of ahimsa, and it's just like speaking to somebody like an elderly person and taking wisdom straight away from them, like taking emotional support from them. That's what this commentary feels like. Anyway, so what shines as key takeaways from me for me is just personal, but the meaning itself, it comes from Krishna, of course. The commentary is totally in alignment with rishis. He's kept the purport very much intact, but it does shine through as something from, as he says, light of modern thought and modern needs. That's just amazing that Swami Ranganathananda is able to bring that for us, where we need to be able to apply this in current times. Without further ado, 8:14. अनन्यचेता सततं यो मां स्मरति नित्यशः तस्याहं सुलभः पार्थ नित्ययुक्तस्य योगिनः. I'm easily attainable by that ever steadfast yogi who remembers me constantly and daily with a single mind, O Partha. So here the Lord says, I'm easily attainable. For who? For somebody that remembers me constantly and daily. And he is an ever steadfast yogi with a single mind. Now, constantly placed in yoga, I have written. Now, let me read what Swami Ranganathananda says. This is luckily a smaller purport. The next verse runs to pages, and I'm only going to read the highlighted portions of it. Verse 14 tells that Ananya Chetaha Satatam Yomam Smarati. Those who remember me with one pointed mind, Ananya Chetaha, mind goes only towards me, nothing else. That is called Ananya Chetaha Satatam, constantly. Mam Smarati Nityashaha, remembers me daily. Tasyaham Sulabah Partha. To such a person, O Arjuna, I am easy to realize. Sulabha means easily available. Why? Nitya Yuktasya Yoginaha. He or she is a yogi who is Nitya Yukta, constantly in yoga state, not occasionally. By long and continued practice, the very life becomes a yoga practice. Some people have attained that kind of state. We study about them in some ancient and modern books. So, in this verse, what I got is that there is hope. Because sometimes when you read some verses, it says like Dhyana Yoga and some of those other verses, you just get very overwhelmed and you think, this is not up to me. Just like Arjuna says, Sanchalam hi mana Krishna pramad balavadridam tasya. See, he says, chanchalam hi mana Krishna. The mind is not going to stay, and it's very chanchalam. It's just very restless. So sometimes you get the feeling that, why did I even sign up for this game? This isn't my cup of tea. I'd rather be doing something else than thinking of God and doing these practices. This is going to overwhelm me. I've been placed in samsara, which is this life, this world, where my demands are great. I have to take care of my kids, my husband, elders in the family, sick children. And then this is coming from a woman's point of view, and men, they have to go to a job, and women also go to a job. There is karma yoga there. How is everything going to pan up? And then I have to think of Lord too. This is something that everybody goes through. And then what is this? Is there any hope? Yes, there is hope, because he says, I am Sulabha Partha, I am easily attainable. Okay, to who? By ever steadfast yogi. By yogi, what does he mean? Does he mean a Raja yogi? Does he mean a Karma yogi? Does he mean a Bhakti yogi? For me, in my mind, having read once the entire Gita once, not a deep dive, not just read. I mean, you can keep on doing deep dive in Gita. Every time you read one verse, every time, I say it's Nitya Navina. It's always new, always Nitya Yavana. It's always young. Every time you read a verse, every time you read a commentary, something new just flowers within you. Something new, it keeps on giving. That's what this is. Advaitamrita Varshinim, Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim, we say in the Dhyana Sloka, right? She is Advaitamrita Varshinim. She's Gita Mata. She's Mata. She keeps on giving. So every time you read this, you get new stuff. So here, when I read that fully, and I say, okay, I'm easily attainable. What is he saying? Ever steadfast yogi. Which yogi does he mean? The entire Gita, by the time you come to Ananya Chintayanto Mama or Sarvadharman Parityancha, you are pretty much convinced that even though Lord says many types of yoga here, Raja Yoga, and then he says Bhakti Yoga, and then he says, Karma Yoga, Karma Sannyasa, and all those things. One thing is just the thread that just keeps it together, which is Bhakti. For me, it is Bhakti. Many people take many things. For me, it is Bhakti. Ever steadfast yogi means Bhakti Yoga for me. Because in this day and age, one cannot be a Raja yogi in its true sense, is that you cannot sit in a cave and meditate all the time. That's not going to alleviate all your suffering. Again, in this day and age, you can say, I'm going to dedicate all my karma, my actions or my everyday activities as a service to the Lord. You can say that. You can even try doing it that way. You will nevertheless be caught in the ego, because while you do this job, and if you're one that's doing a job very well, beware all the more, because you will get attached to it. You would want perfection. You want recognition for the perfection. And you would want a promotion if it's a job. You would want recognition. If it's cooking, you want others to say it's good. If it's something that's selfless, you want others to watch. That's natural that, the ego gets in and say, oh, I gave $100 to this temple. I'd rather have my name engraved on that tile. These are the things that are just counterproductive to the karma yoga practice, because these do pop up. We can fool ourselves saying that it doesn't, but it always does. So karma yoga in this day and age alone will never be able to take us through this samsara and take us to Lord. What actually is the good practice in Kali Yuga is Bhakti Yoga. And anywhere you read from Gita, you will get that feeling, if you have tried other yogas, ever steadfast yogi always means a bhakti yogi also, because everything done with bhakti is when jnana fruits. For me, jnana is a fruit of bhakti. The more bhakti you do, the result of it is a sweet, sweet fruit. Kanchi Paramacharya, in one of his books, Daivatin Kural, he says, when you are sour, you're not sweet, you're sour, that means you haven't attained jnana yet. When you become sweeter and sweeter, then the fruit just becomes a completely ripened fruit. That is jnana. And then it falls off of the tree, which means all your fetters and bondages detach themselves freely. You don't have to go and pull the fruit from the tree, it falls off itself. That's jnana, and that jnana comes with bhakti. So when I say I'm easily attainable by ever steadfast yogi, yes, bhakti yoga, who remembers me constantly, that is bhakti. Who remembers me constantly is bhakti, and daily. That just makes its case for a daily bhakti yoga practice in our daily life with a single mind, which is going to give you a focusedness. Bhakti gives you focus. Again, just bhakti will not do. All these yogas need to be practiced together, bhakti being its extreme, beautiful, strong foundation. Without bhakti, karma is not possible. Without bhakti, jnana is not possible. Without bhakti, Raja Yoga and meditation is not possible. Bhakti is going to be your strong, strong, strong foundation for everything else that you're building on top of it. So I see this verse of as giving me hope that Sulabha Partha, yes, this is easy, and one who thinks of me constantly and daily with a single mind, yes, he is able to realize me. So, okay, constantly and with single mind, I have circled because I've taken additional notes here. What can we do to do constant thinking of God and with single mind, given all the problems I just laid down? This is all my personal search, as so to speak. I take these words and I start to apply them. How will I do anything constantly? It is not possible. For at first, the mind would say, "Why bother? This isn't going to be possible." Then comes all these books that we read, like Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and then Bhagavad Gita itself. You find in other places. Then when he says, the constant practice. That's what makes it better. Vayorva Sudushkuram. She says it's like mind is like Vayu, right? Like air. It just doesn't stay in one place. As Krishna says, yes, it is. It is like wind. The mind does not stay. He agrees with Arjuna, saying yes, it is like, but constant practice makes it, stay in one place. So in our daily life, what can make me think of Lord constantly? You start your day with Lord and you end your day with Lord. It is just going to be a very, very, very slow practice. You cannot take something and just, say, okay, today I am going to think of Lord constantly, and otherwise, if it doesn't happen, that's it. This is not worth following. That's an attitude that will lead to failure immediately. What we can do is to start simple, start with small steps, offering incense at the altar and sitting at the altar just for 5 minutes. Early in the morning, you make coffee, you drink coffee, you sit with the Lord and drink coffee. Instead of drinking coffee and thinking of all the things that could go wrong with the day or all the work pressures, take those 5 minutes when you sip coffee or tea or whatever, but sit in the front of altar if you have an altar. If you don't have an altar, just dedicate that time to the Lord. Every religion doesn't have to be in the way of doing bhakti can be done in any religion. In fact, all religions are bhakti religions anyway. So if it's Jesus, if it's Allah, if it's Krishna, Rama, or Divine Mother, Devi, whatever it is, Sai Baba, whatever it is you're attached to, have coffee with them, talk to them in the morning. And if you rise early in the morning, that's going to help because no one else is up and judging you for having talked to God, right? So we can do that bhakti practice constantly. That, what happens those 5 minutes that we speak to the Lord. Lord is all compassionate. I mean, it's not even saying, Ramakrishna says, why call it compassion? It's as if it's his duty, right? He is our parent. And Ramana Maharishi actually, echoes that sentiment in Aksharamana Malai. You asked me to come here, and I have come here. It is now your headache to take care of me. It's even say, Varundidin Talaividhi. He says, it's your fate that I'm here. You called me. I'm here in Tiruvannamalai. You better take care of me. So that's how it is. So 5 minutes that we give Lord being the father, the mother, the friend. He says, Gatir, Bhakta, Prabhuhu, Sakshi, Nivasha, Sharanam, Suhrud. He's the friend. He says elsewhere in Gita that I'm all of this. So he's going to make those 5 minutes into 10 to 15, and so on and so forth. And you develop a true love for God. True love for God starts to make sense, starts to dawn upon you that God alone has become everything. It's not in reality yet, and for many of us. So what it would lead there, and you will see signs of that to begin with. So thinking, remembering me constantly and daily, that denotes everyday regimented bhakti practice. For me, I took it to be an inspiration to do more bhakti, and with a single mind. Bhakti, what does it do? Early in the morning, you're talking to the Lord. Before going to the bed, you talk to Lord again and say, Lord, thanks for everything that you did today. Thanks for everything. Even a bad day, even a bad day is but a gift from God to learn lessons, right? To do better. Or just the fact that you went through that day and you're still here is the testimony of God's presence in your life. He took it through, right? He held your hand, and through that bad day, you're here. You're on the bed, ending the day, again dedicating it to Lord. So that's a testimony that God is with you. So you take that and you keep on practicing, and you keep on building it up. It becomes a puja, it becomes an external puja, and then it becomes a meditation. And to 5 minutes turn to 45 minutes, you're able to completely make sure you are able to hold on to a spiritual practice, also do all the karmas in the day slowly as a service to the Lord. That is a single mind. That boils down to being a single mind. Slowly what happens, that the 5 minute coffee makes taking care of a sick child a service to the Lord. And then because you started the day with Lord, you're also going through the day with Lord. Then you say, Lord, please make my child better. Please take this as a service to you. Every time I give medicine to my child, I wake up my child, give her medicines, I put her on my shoulder, I stroke her, I make her sleep, I give her comfort, I hug her. Everything is being done to you through her. This is an opportunity to serve you. That's how the thoughts become, and then it becomes a single mind. That's what this verse led me to. The next verse is Mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayamashasvatam napnuvanti mahatmanah samsiddhim paramam gatah. Reaching the highest perfection and having attained me, the great souled ones are no more subject to rebirth, which is home of pain and is ephemeral. Now, Dukkhalayam and Ashasvatam, I took those two words and started to read the whole purport. And then some things actually stood out to me. Let me just read the highlighted sentences. The truth is what you find mentioned by Gita here as Dukkalayam Shashvatam. When you have this body, you have so many pressures. The whole world is pressing upon you. You're trying to resist it to be yourself. So joy comes, sorrow comes, suffering comes, tensions come, all sorts of problems come. All these put together is what we repeat in our society as samsara. Is tapatraya. The worldly life is made of threefold misery. So he says through pleasure and pain we can achieve our spiritual evolution. Sometimes pain will help you better than pleasure in spiritual evolution. Here I had to stop because Dukhalayam and Ashasvatam, this seems like what a morbid way of saying the world is Dukhalayam. It's a misery, it's full of miseries, and Ashasvatam is impermanent. But Sri Ramakrishna says this can be turned into Mojar Kuti in Bengali. He says it can be turned into a house of mirth. How can that be? Because having the body, you always have pain, suffering that comes along with the body. Having the mind, it comes along with suffering because the mind just thinks and projects and brings all sorts of suffering. The mind realizes somebody is not nice to you. If there's no mind, there's no pain. If the body is showing you your lower back is aching all the time, you're unable to stand or bend. There's no body, there's no pain. With the body and mind, how can somebody make it a house of mirth? Yes, we can. Through taking pleasure and pain as a means to spiritual evolution. Pain more than pleasure. Swami Ranganathananda says, the human mind is set to a high purpose. This is from Swami Vivekananda's lectures. It takes one beyond both pain and pleasure, then makes one realize the infinite Atman, the divine, which is beyond all dualities of pain and pleasure. So how do you make this a Mojar Kuti? This is how. This is how all Mahatmas made it. Those who have made it as like those who transcended this, they're not subject to rebirth. They're not going to come back and go through all this again and again. And even if they do it, they will be Karana Janmas like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Ramana Maharishi. They are Karana Janmas. They come here just to take all those pains and pleasures and just to show us what it is, show us what human evolution is, spiritual evolution is, what it is to be with God all the time, what it is to be with God and realize Atman, realize that we are all mistaken identities when we operate from the level of body and mind. So utilize the occasion of pain and pleasure to achieve knowledge and compassion. That spiritual expansion of human personality, he says. So here Krishna says, he says one who can do constant thinking is going to come to me, and he says that has been done. Having reached that highest perfection, having attained me, they are not going to come back. These people are Mahatmas. They are not going to come back. How do they escape this Dukhalayam and Ashasvatam? This world as it is full of miseries, and it is impermanent. If you are a body, if you operate from the body level and think body is this, okay, this woman that I think that I am, then this woman is just changing constantly and one day going to decay, right? So that is Ashasvatam already. Dukhalayam. If I think that this is this body that is living, this is me, this mistaken identity of me, and then I think this is the mind. Oh, I'm not the body. Let's just say I get lucky enough to make that realization. Okay, body decays and dies. I'm not the body. But all these intellectual things that are going on in my mind, yes, that is me. This woman that I call myself, this is the bundle of thoughts. And that again is Dukhalayam, because it's coming and going. One day it's joyful, one day it's sorrowful, one day too much of pleasure, and then there is pain. So that also is not something that is constantly an undercurrent of a bliss. But having realized that these two are mistaken identity, Mahatma reaches and transcends both and reaches to the realization that he is the infinite Atman, and thereby he attains the Lord, being Atman. Just like you cannot hear from mouth, okay, just like you cannot see from your ears, similarly with the body and mind, God cannot be realized. God has to be realized with this realization, Atman. Being an Atman is the only way to realize God or get even closer to Him. So that's what I got out of this, that this world that is mentioned as Dukhalayam and Ashasvatam, the Mahatmas have found it to be so, yes, but not in a morbid way saying, okay, you're here, you're doomed. You are here in this world, you're doomed. This is all impermanence. This is all full of misery. Just die. That's not the message here. The message of Mahatmas who have been realized themselves that Atman is, yes, this is Dukhalema Shasvatam, as long as you have this mistaken identity that you're the body and or the mind, and as long as you identify yourself the Atman that you truly are, you're fine. Once you have that realization, this Dukhalayam is going to be Mojar Koti that Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said. So these two are the verses that I dove deep into, and I hope you enjoyed this read along with me and contemplate along with me. Hope this inspires you to pick up the Gita and see what it says, as this is, again, as I said, beyond religion, beyond anything. This is talking about today's problems that we face and how we can look at it in a different way. And those of us that are bhakti oriented, that it can stabilize our bhakti and take us closer to God. I'll meet you with one more video soon, and thank you.